So I'm estimating that I'm going to save myself around 2,000 hours per year doing water changes. I currently use a siphon and I hook it up to my sink, and then I turn the water on and it uses water in order to make a suction that goes from the tank to the sink and empties out my tank. And now I have 4 tanks. So I'm estimating that it's going to save me about 40 minutes every single week by going from this old system to the new system. Now the new system is pretty interesting because I have an outdoor hose bib right outside my window. It's probably about 4 to 5 feet underneath my office window. Now you'll see here in a minute, but I created a system where I can have an inlet and an outlet from my office while having my window open, keeping everything secure and everything safe so I don't have any water issues inside, any leaks. So let's get to what I built that's gonna save me a bunch of time. And if you have something similar, maybe you can set up something like this as well. So before we get to the actual setup, I wanted to say the whole reason why I'm doing this is because when you use a pump and you put the water pump inside your aquarium and you pump out water, you can get pumps that pump out like 850 gallons per hour, or even more. And so that makes water changes so much faster. So my idea is I want a system where I can have a pump inside the aquarium, an outlet to outside of my house, and I pump out all the water that I need, 50%, 80%, however much you're gonna change. And then I have a reservoir inside of my office and I just put the pump in the reservoir and pump it right back into the aquarium. So that itself will save a bunch of time. It takes me so long to do this when I use a siphon through my sink system that this is what I want to replace it with, because whenever I use the pump, I literally can drain like half the water in just maybe 4 minutes. So I spent a lot of time figuring out like what materials I should use, and I decided on getting just a PVC board. You know, it's waterproof. It fit perfectly in my window, in those tracks on either side of your window, which is like a 1/2 inch. And then so I just insulated. There's this little lip between the PVC board and the windowsill. That's where I insulated, just make sure no cold air was coming through. And I used to have an air conditioner unit in this window. That's why there's some foam here. And I decided to put this 2x3, screw it down into the windowsill, and then use these other pieces of 2x3 to screw into the longer 2x3, and then on the other side from the outside in, screw that PVC board into the top pieces of the 2x3. That way the board shouldn't move, because I'm taking that heated hose from outside and feeding it in through the window, and I really don't want it to like jiggle around. So I wanted this to be very secure. So it ended up being very secure, and it really doesn't move at all. And here I'm just like taking some all-weather screws from the outside, going from the PVC board into those top portions of the 2x3. And then here I insulate it. And what I noticed is there really wasn't enough force to keep the window down. So what I did later is I just wedged a 1x2 piece of wood from the top part of the window to the bottom window, just to apply pressure down so there was no gaps there, no air that's flowing through. And then on the outside, I put a piece of weather stripping, like Gorilla Tape weather stripping. And you can see I drilled the 1-inch hole on the right-hand side, and I just wanted to keep this really simple. So I just got this little 1-inch rubber stopper that I can plug in that hole, and it fits perfectly with my tubing that I use with my pump to pump out all my dirty aquarium water. And here's the heated hose that I got on Amazon. It's 15 feet. That's the minimum I could get. You can see that there's a little weather sensor right there that I just fed through. So if it gets down to a certain degrees, then it's gonna heat up that hose. So the water, if there's water in there, it should never freeze. So I can use this all year round. Now, what I did notice after testing all of this and everything, I'm not gonna leave this pressurized all the time. I don't wanna take the risk of having my office flood for whatever reason. So whenever I'm gonna fill up my 32-gallon bucket, that's what I decided on, is I'll just turn it on outside, And then I have the ball valve on the inside, so I can just shut off the water. So I have enough time to like go outside, shut off the main, and then come back in, and there's not a mess. So that I can just control that with the ball valve in there. And so here I'm just trying to figure out a way, like how am I gonna secure this? I was trying to find a hose clamp that had a mount screw on it, so I can tighten the hose clamp and then screw that into the 2x3, but I just couldn't find anything. And then I just decided to put in hook screws and then zip tie them. And that worked out pretty well. This isn't the final version of it. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to temporarily just plug that hole because I have to go to Home Depot and pick up a few more items in order to make this work. And I just didn't want any bugs or anything coming in the office. So now I'm back from Home Depot. I got this 1x2 by 8 foot board, and I just basically drilled holes in here. And I realized that the pipe was coming in a little too far, and I just really couldn't secure it. So I just needed some extra wood there. And then I just put in an additional hook there, you can see, and then I just zip tied that part a couple times. And I got it really secure. Because the thing is I just didn't want this hose moving and then the PVC to like cut away at the edge of the hose. I just didn't want any movement in there. So that's why I secured it so well. And then here, I took out the temporary insulation, and then the hose came with this like little like rubber piece, which I just cut like a 1/2 inch section, and then I cut that in half, and I just placed it underneath the hose to give the hose a little extra support so it doesn't rub up against the PVC board. And then I got this Gorilla Tape, this water seal Gorilla Tape, and just covered everything up so no bugs can get in. And that's what it looks like. Turned out pretty nice. I'm gonna paint that white. I love the rubber stopper. It's just so simple. And then you can see here, that's the 1x2 I used to push down the window, so there's no gaps in the insulation at the bottom. And then here we are outside. That's my heated hose. I got this Y adapter so we can use a hose outside as well. And then there's 2 ball valves. I can just turn it on. And then here it is going up and through. And I basically just covered this with the Gorilla Tape. So that's my setup. And I am waiting on one thing, which is a 32-gallon trash bin. That's what's gonna be my storage container for the water. But you do want to make sure that whatever storage container that you get that holds water is also food safe. You don't want it leaching chemicals or dyes or anything into your aquarium that's harmful for your fish. So I did get one on Amazon that is completely food safe. And then also the hose that I'm using, it's meant for RVs and it's meant for drinking water. So both of those are good for human consumption, so they're safe to go into your aquarium. You just want to do research on that before you buy anything to make sure that it's safe enough for your aquarium. And if you have anything similar to this, or you've configured something to make your water changes easier, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. We'll see you next time.